Welcome to the Postpartum Performance Podcast. If you're here to be empowered and encouraged, you're in the right place. I believe every woman deserves to learn who's in her corner, which is why this podcast was created, to share encouragement and intentional conversations around women's health, nutrition, and wellness for new mothers. In each episode, we will discuss ways for women to find truth for her health, to feel strong, and to be confident from the inside out. I'm your host, Dr. Lindsay Peczkowski, a performance physical therapist with a passion for teaching others about pelvic health and guiding mothers to build movement, confidence, and strength. I'm a lover of running and weightlifting and a healthy cooking enthusiast. All right, ladies, grab your coffee and settle in for an episode of the Postpartum Performance Podcast. Are you with me? Here we go. Welcome back to the Postpartum Performance Podcast. Today on the show, we have a friend of mine and surfing mama, Natalie Parlett. In today's show, we chat about the personal journey that she has had with pregnancy and the evolution and transformation from nutrition and fitness. We talk about the importance of nourishing yourself through movement and food during pregnancy and having a restorative approach to the postpartum season. Natalie is a mother of 4 boys and has a diverse background in all things health, from nutrition to Pilates to functional training. She is a functional nutritional therapy practitioner, restorative wellness practitioner, CrossFit level 1 and 2 trainer, a yoga RYT 200 teacher, and a Pilates certified instructor. Her work as a functional nutrition therapy practitioner is centered around her belief that nutrition is the foundation of health. She believes that health should be accessible to anyone and everyone for all stages of life, and food is the medicine to get you there. She works with clients dealing with fatigue, hormonal imbalance, digestive function, or just wanting to lose weight. Her passion lies in working with women to find the root cause and guide them back to the health that they deserve. She specializes in women's health, hormones, preconception, and postpartum. It was such a joy to have Natalie on the show, and I hope you enjoy the conversation as much as we did. So, without further ado, ladies, let's get to the show. Welcome back to the Postpartum Performance Podcast. Today we have Natalie Parlett on the show, a good friend of mine and a sweetheart and a very strong mama and expecting mama, and I'm super excited for the conversation today. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, happy to have you on. We've been having so many conversations, not recorded, obviously, just about nutrition and health and fitness and pregnancy and all of those things. And we figured, why not get recording?
Yeah, pretty much every appointment we have together.
Yeah, that's literally pretty much what it is. So what I wanted to have you start off with is just sharing a little bit more about yourself personally and professionally, because I think you have an interesting story to share, and I would love for the listeners to hear.
Okay. And as I'm going, if you want to pick deeper into any of it that I brush over, you can, because sometimes I forget some important aspects.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, first and foremost, I'm a mama of 4 boys. Right now, the age ranges are from 20 down to 13. So I've kind of seen the whole gamut of babies to adult children.
Yeah.
And that is really what got me started in my pursuit of health and nutrition. So when they were little, I started recognizing how food affected them and their health. And so that just drove that deeper into, okay, I need to figure out, how I can get my kids healthier, how we can be at the doctor less often, and what foods are creating this, because I wasn't really getting any answers. So I started doing my own research and my own studying for a number of years, because I have 20-year-olds.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a while. But that led me to, becoming a Pilates instructor and becoming a trainer. It led me to the physical piece of it, and then also the nutrition piece of it. And then finally I went through nutritional therapy school and restorative wellness and, the whole gamut of, once you start discovering and learning. You're like, okay, what else can I learn and how much deeper can I go? And I just plan on learning for the rest of my life.
Good. Lifelong learner. I think
that's more certifications just for fun.
Yeah. To keep learning and helping. And I think you have an interesting perspective because right now there's some exciting things going on in your life. So kind of we're going to touch on some of that today. If you want to share a little bit more about kind of what you're experiencing.
So what I'm experiencing right now is a surprise pregnancy.
An exciting thing.
It's very exciting. We're really, really excited. It's a really cool thing for me because I experienced pregnancy and motherhood so young. And now I still feel young. I'm 36. I'll be 37 when I have this baby. I'm really excited to experience the other side of it, the side where everyone's like, oh my gosh, it's so much harder when you're older. But you also are wiser. And I know it's going to be different parenting and physically and all of that. And it helps me to help other people, I think. And I've learned a lot over the years. There are a lot of things I would have done different with my boys when I was pregnant and when they were little. So I'm so excited to be in it right now.
I think you have so many tools in your toolbox from your previous experience with other fitness industry things and nutrition. So I think it's been super fun to watch you throughout your pregnancy so far, already knowing kind of where you were at prior to pregnancy and then where and how that's shifted. If you'd want to share a little bit more about your personal nutrition changes, and then we'll touch on maybe fitness stuff after. So nutrition wise, what, if anything, changed or what did you focus on more, I guess, this pregnancy versus previous pregnancies as well?
So to explain that, I should probably talk about what my nutrition used to look like.
Yeah.
And it used to look like the standard American diet. When I was pregnant with the twins, and I have twins. I probably didn't say that.
That's okay.
Twins that are 20, and then a 16-year-old and a 13-year-old. But through all their pregnancies, especially the twins, I knew nothing. I was eating what I could because I was really sick with them. And then with my 16-year-old, it was like I wasn't sick, so I ate everything in sight, like fast food, you name it, like things that now I'm just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I ate that. And then with my youngest, who's 13, I still wasn't eating great by what I consider great right now, but it was better. It started slowly evolving. It wasn't like this overnight thing. It was a slow evolution of, once you know better, you do better. And over the years, I learned a little bit more. So standard American diet, like I'm talking fast food out of a box, sometimes homemade, but I didn't know how to cook. So I had to teach myself how to cook, that sort of thing. And it was probably when I started, the biggest drastic change I saw was when I started working out, which was when my youngest was a baby, so like 13 years ago. And I realized, oh my gosh, if I eat better, I feel better when I'm working out.
Yeah, you're like, this is interesting.
Yeah, instead combination. Of just eat, like at that point I knew don't eat out of box, don't eat fast food. But then it was like, okay, I'm eating homemade food. How can I improve this homemade food? How can it be whole foods and whatnot?
Yeah.
So over the last 12 years, my diet's changed dramatically. And then as I started working with other women and pregnancy and preconception and seeing how it affected hormones, my diet started changing. Like my husband jokes that I probably got pregnant because I stopped drinking coffee, which I was a serious coffee addict since I was probably a kid. I'm from the Pacific Northwest.
Oh yeah, like that's where it's from. Yeah,
it's like coffee,
super popular.
But I started noticing like just little things like breakouts and my period was early and spotting, and I'm like, I'm having all the symptoms of low progesterone. I'm doing everything else right. I'm eating really well and everything else is right. Oh, what's this last little piece? It was coffee. As soon as I stopped drinking coffee, I stopped spotting. My period links into like a normal time. I stopped getting the breakouts. I stopped getting hormonal headaches. I'm like, oh, wow.
That's so powerful, though. I think that's so powerful to hear and see those things. Dave and I actually we have switched to decaf. So we're like slowly working our way.
It was hard.
And yeah, I think we were just finding that it was so much, there's so much like almost identity attachment to you just love your coffee, and we still love the taste of coffee, but we weren't liking the side effects of feeling like anxious or just not feeling like you were able to focus well enough on the things that we wanted to do. And just
there's a big piece with people with anxiety, and they don't really realize it until you cut it out, that it can increase anxiety, and some mood stuff. Yeah. I forget words a lot being pregnant. I can't think of one right now, but patience, Yeah. I will always love coffee, right? I will always think it's the most wonderful thing ever. It was the last thing I wanted to give up. It was the hardest thing that I had to give up. But man, it made a really big difference. That was in January, and it's October now. I'm like, I can't believe I did that. Yeah. I'm pregnant, and my sense of smell is really strong. I will smell people making coffee in the morning, as I'm walking down the street. I can just it's ridiculous. My husband's so happy I gave it up because he's not a coffee drinker. But yeah, we joke all the time that that's probably why I got pregnant.
But there's so many things, and I think that's even just great for people to know, through your personal nutrition journey and health and fitness and all of that, everyone comes from a different standpoint. So for you, it was coffee. For someone else, it could be some dairy thing, or it could be something that's more like gluten sensitivity or sugar or whatever it is, that there's so many things. And not to say that you need to be going to these extremes, but like you had said, it's been a process. And likewise for myself too, it's a process of choosing kind of that next best thing and kind of slowly evolving. So I love that. And even when it is some of the tough love things that you really enjoy.
That's the last thing I want to tell people to give up. And I say hey, I don't want to tell you to give this up, but here was my experience. If everything else in your diet's on point and you're still having some hormonal stuff or anxiety or whatever, you might want to consider it. I can help walk you through how I weaned off and give you emotional support, because it's not easy. But I definitely don't like telling people to give up anything unless it's, I'm just going to say canola oil or some of the things that I
blatant. High fructose corn syrup.
Right. Coffee's a rough one.
Yeah. But thankfully there's really awesome teas out there in the world and stuff like that. And even
infusions right now.
Ooh, nice. Certain flavors or anything, or just?
Before I got pregnant, I really enjoyed oat straw infusion and nettle. And then coincidentally, my midwife really likes those as well. So she's been encouraging me to do that. Dandelion's great for liver stuff. There's a few more that are really great for pregnancy, and calcium, and they're so easy and they're pretty, and it's fun to make them.
Yeah. That sounds awesome. I have to make some of those.
Yeah. I'll send you some.
We'll have to make you can make some of those. Very, very cool. So now how does your fitness, so we talked a little bit about nutrition. I feel like we could still dive in to any more.
Nutrition, I was really thrilled to see how much more, still not enough, I think, but there's more out there than there was when I was having babies. Real food pregnancy, which I've talked about. Endlessly. Lily Nicholson. She wrote a beautiful, wonderful book on nutrition and pregnancy. And it's for preconception. I would tell people to read that and start applying it, because you want to build up your nutrient stores prior to pregnancy. And then through pregnancy and postpartum, it's just how you should be eating all the time. So I was really stoked to get her book and find out that's how I was eating prior to pregnancy.
Yeah, you're this makes sense.
And then have all the research to back it up, and recipes, and really great info in her book. That's ultimately where the nutrition led me to being pregnant now.
Yeah. Well, it's eating the real food. It's eating a food that less processed, if not at all processed, or.
Yeah. And ideally you want to be doing that for quite a while before pregnancy. So back in villages, they used to feed the groom and bride before getting married, like for months, like the most nutritious food, because, you know, in their head, they would get married and then get pregnant. And they knew that the healthiest babies came from really solid preconception nutrition.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
It totally makes sense. Yeah.
And then the other piece that's helpful with the preconception nutrition is if you're already used to eating that way and you enjoy that food, and then you get pregnant and you have all these aversions and cravings, which was worst for me in the first trimester, it is for most people, you'll still be able to come back to that real food. So like, I did not want vegetables my first trimester. And a part of me was like, oh my gosh, do I never want vegetables again? But I had to trust that no, it's going to come back. And sure enough, first trimester nausea ended, vegetables are back. Like I'm able to eat how I did before. It's scary though.
Yeah.
But am I going to be craving like carbs forever? Like, no, it gets better.
Like so, there's that transition point at some point.
Yeah. It's almost like training like your taste buds and getting your body to a place where it really loves real food.
Yeah, absolutely.
It takes time.
Yes, absolutely. And I've heard the term like a primester, or basically like spending, I think it was the first 180 days or so before conception, like if you're trying to do a little bit more planning or just in general. But if you think about that, even just starting, like you were saying, just having that in your head of like, okay, if we're looking to start a family or like certain things, or even just in like improve your health, like you don't even have to be looking to start a family or to be like looking on like the pregnancy side of things. We can still look at just general health, and that's going to get you in a great spot for hormone health and
so as a woman,
everything else.
If your hormones are a place where you can conceive and you're feeling good, then like you're healthy in general. If you're at a place where your hormones are out of whack, like it doesn't matter if you want to have a baby or not, like you're going to feel your best if your hormones are in a good place, if they're balanced and where they should be. So if you're like, oh, I don't want to get pregnant, like, okay, cool. That doesn't matter. You should still be paying attention to what your period says and all your signs and symptoms telling you what your hormones are doing.
Absolutely. Like energy levels and mood and all of those things, I think is very important, because although this podcast is for postpartum women, it's for any woman, honestly. And so being able to know that as a woman, we have the ability to use nutrition as almost like a power source. I think it's like our superpower.
And our period as like what they call the fifth vital sign. Like I'm really big on paying attention to your period.
Yeah, it's so important.
It's telling us what's going on at a deeper level.
That's huge. Yeah. So nutrition definitely comes into play. I want to talk a little bit about fitness as well. So Natalie has a nice long history of a lot of variety of fitness, which I think is interesting, because some people kind of pick one type of fitness or certain type of training or workout and kind of just keep going in that direction. I think you have a really good variety. And also the training that you were doing prior to your pregnancy this time around, and how that's changed. So I would love to hear kind of a little bit of and share more about your fitness, and how it's evolved.
Okay. So with my previous pregnancies, I didn't work out at all. I was pretty much sedentary. I was young. I was a young mom, and I was busy, but I didn't work out. So I found fitness, like I said, when my youngest was a baby, and he's 13, was CrossFit. And I just started working out every single day. And then that evolved to me competing in CrossFit. And I'm talking like postpartum, starting from scratch to then deciding, I'm going to compete.
Yeah, let's do something competitive.
Yeah, it really evolved. And I did pretty well.
Yeah.
And I became a Pilates instructor because I've always had back issues since I was 14, fed back stuff. And that I found really balanced everything out. It balanced out what I was doing in CrossFit, and it made my back feel amazing. And then through some life changes, I found yoga. In the midst of all of that, I also did a few triathlons.
Yeah, see, I love it. There's such a good, sprinkle it in. Yeah.
I don't want to say I get bored easy because I mean, I still consistently will do like some monotonous workouts, but I like to mix things up and I like to have different goals and learn new things. So I found yoga, which was a great balance to everything else I was doing. For me, mentally, it was really great. Like it's what I needed to be more grounded instead of the like go, 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 push harder type of thing.
Same.
So yeah, between weightlifting, CrossFit, triathlons, yoga, Pilates, teaching all of those things, personal training with people, coaching people, that's evolved to my favorite sport right now is surfing.
Rockstar.
Yeah. A lot of what I
Mama
do
surfer.
is like, okay, like how can this help me to stay fit for surfing and life and in general? I used to hate running, but I started running within the last few years more often and got to where I enjoyed it. I'll never be like the runner, but it's enjoyable. Kind of a meditation like yoga.
Yeah.
So I stopped competing because that didn't feel very balanced to me.
Yeah, that can be intense training sessions
really hard on my body.
Competitive. Yeah.
And so now I work out more for longevity and surfing and just to be healthy, happy human. And then roll that into pregnancy.
Yeah.
Has been really interesting. I think people have this misconception of me, like, oh my gosh, she's going to be one of those like super fit pregnant moms that's like doing everything because, you know, like I hit it pretty hard in my non-pregnant life. And I think they expected to see that through pregnancy and, you know, it's COVID. So I mostly work out by myself. I think people would be surprised to know that I have a much more balanced approach to my pregnancy workouts. And I'm much more careful than I see a lot of people being for reasons you and I have talked about. But I don't think more is better when you're pregnant.
Yeah.
I think it's important to be really smart, to strengthen the right places, to let other places not loosen, but lengthen, like you say, because you can get into trouble. But it's been a test of listening to my body, which I love, listening to my baby, seeing you, pulling out all the tools I have. Like as soon as I got pregnant, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to talk to Lindsay.
Yeah.
Because
that was the best like text phone call. I was like, yay!
Like, I have to.
So fun. I was so excited for you guys.
But yeah, using all of those tools that I never had before, you know? It was like, okay, I'm older. What's this going to feel like? But I also know a lot more.
Absolutely.
So between you, my husband's a coach, started seeing the chiropractor recently to make sure everything's in alignment. My body feels better in pregnancy than it does outside of pregnancy, if I'm being honest.
I love that though.
Yeah.
That's like so honest and so like in tune as well.
Yeah.
I think that's fantastic that you're feeling really good.
Not focusing on how much weight I'm gaining. My body's going to gain when it gains. I've learned from being pregnant as a 19, 24-year-old woman that my body gains what it's going to gain. I ate like garbage, like I said, with my earlier pregnancies, and I gained roughly what I'm gaining right now. So your body needs what it needs. You can gain weight from good nutrition and good food, or you can gain it from garbage. But
yeah, it's like whatever is sustainable in that place.
And everyone's different, you know.
Yeah.
So I feel good.
That's so good.
It's been a fun journey and fun to see all this. I'm really excited. I'm trying to enjoy every moment. And don't get me wrong, but I'm also really excited to do postpartum differently.
Yes.
And to have you.
I'm happy to be a part of the team. Yeah. It'll be fun. Because for your workouts right now, or what are you doing in the mornings? I know you have a pretty set routine on what you've been doing. So I'd love to have you touch on some of that because I think it's been great what you've been doing.
So I've been walking a lot. I used to get up and run most mornings, or maybe like 4 or 5 times a week, depending on how I felt on the beach because we live close to the beach. But it just felt in the first trimester, I was like, man, I don't know how this feels. Like it doesn't feel bad, but I'm not sure if it feels right for me. Did a little more research. I'm like, I want to try to preserve my pelvic floor, my joints. I tend to have loose ligaments outside of pregnancy, and they were loose like as soon as I got pregnant. So I started walking. I started at like 30 minutes and 45 minutes and an hour. And then most days I'll walk for an hour and a half.
That's awesome.
Anywhere from 3 to 5 miles. As I get closer to my third trimester, I'm slowing down a little bit on my walks, but I still feel like I need to walk in some form every day. And it makes my body feel so good.
That's awesome.
After my walk, it depends, where I'm at in the week and what I've done. I'll touch base with my husband and be like, hey, what do you think I should do? He'll always say, how do you feel today, before he gives me any workout.
That's awesome too, to have that support. I know he's been super excited for the process as well. So it's been fun to see.
Yeah, we're both in the industry. So it's like so fun to it's like an experiment essentially.
Yeah, that's like health, fitness, nutrition. It's all kind of like these like self-experimenting. But then during pregnancy, it's just like another twist to it.
So some days that looks like some strength training. I've modified most things from the beginning. He's like, okay, if you squat, you're squatting to a box. You're going to use dumbbells instead of he's like, I don't want you to press the barbell over your head. You're going to use dumbbells. We're going to lighten this. You're going to drink water between.
Like hydration. Yeah. Hydration is key.
Yeah. And then just trying to strengthen the things that need strengthening and, touching base with you and seeing how everything feels. And then other days I'll do yoga. 30 to 45 minutes of yoga, which is great for me mentally. Usually that's like a recovery day. I need this. If I can get in the water, I get in the water. Yeah. Surfing is getting a little more awkward now. My wetsuit looks very comical at this point in time. Paddling's a little awkward, but man, it feels good to surf. Like when I'm actually surfing, not paddling, I feel like normal, as if I'm not even pregnant. Yeah. So that I try to do mentally still. I do a few, I hate to say the CrossFit workouts, but some sort of a not high intensity, but workout.
Like circuit. Strength circuit.
I'm on the bike for 2 minutes and then I do some lunges and then I do some push-up, that sort of thing. Yeah. But keeping my heart rate and my breathing at a manageable level. Yeah. I'm not my weights have all dropped down intentionally. I'm not going all out on anything.
Yeah. Pregnancy is not the time to PR.
No, it's not.
On weights and everything like that. It's
and I've just
not necessary.
Seen some not great outcomes from women that, I hate saying this, but from women that try to maintain that strength and keep going hard and CrossFitting, and even to them, they're like, oh, it's lighter. It's not light enough because guess what?
There's other things that could happen.
Other things that are happening and tightening, and your pelvic floor, it can be too tight.
Yep, it can be too tight. It can be too loose. It can be not coordinated. There's so many aspects to it, which that actually brings me up to thinking about a big reason of why you had reached out kind of initially to when you had found out that you were pregnant. Because it was your concern about diastasis and diastasis rectus abdominis, same thing, or DRA, some people will call it, and how that looked, because you, like you mentioned, you had twins. That was your first pregnancy, was twins, and then you had 2 other pregnancies after. So coming from a mother of 4 already and kind of where you're at, what was going through your mind when you were like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be going through this again, and everything that you've worked up to since then?
So I managed to escape 4 kids, 3 pregnancies, twins, without having a lot of issues, without having issues with, peeing during workouts. My diastasis, my muscles came back together pretty well after the twins. And so in my head, I was like, oh my gosh, I made it this far. How do I make sure I come out of this one well too? And that was, why I contacted you. With the twins, I was 15 when I had them. Shortly before my 16th birthday. I should not have done as well as I did. By the grace of God, everything went well. But I intuitively did some things immediately. I had no business even knowing how to do this, but to bring those muscles back, laying on my back and breathing, taking a towel and wrapping, pulling, and just knowing that I needed to baby that area. So I had a really good recovery as far as the muscles go and as far as like the pelvic floor and all that goes. So coming into this, I'm like, let's not ruin this now.
Yeah, right. You're like, what can we do to make this the best?
Yeah. And so that's, I think what I said to you is like, I've made it this far, help me continue.
Yeah. And that's such a huge touch point, though. I think that a lot of women, whether during pregnancy, postpartum, anything like that, is that awareness, which you are very aware, where she came in right away and was like, hey, I'm noticing with this activity, this is happening. Like, is that good? Is that bad? What does that mean? Like, yeah, like, okay, I modified it this way. Is that like still like an okay thing, or should I be doing something different? Or like, what does that look like? And I think there's so many things that it might not even be with exercise too. That's a big thing that I touch on with a lot of patients is be aware of like just in general what you're doing. And if it might most often it's sometimes a day-to-day activity and it's something that you're continually doing over and over again. Cause usually during our workouts, we're like dialed in because we're like, oh, I've heard that people, like symptoms can get worse with my activity, which it can, but it's usually like in that, 30-minute to an hour session. It's not necessarily that. It's the like getting up out of bed or it's the lifting, something out of the car or whatever it is. It's those things that repetitively over time, when the body's learning a habit that might not be the best option, especially as the body's changing and going through. So that's been a huge thing.
There's so much you can do during pregnancy and then afterwards that make all the difference in the world. I've worked with a lot of women who got sent to me through Pilates with, a pretty bad separation in their abdomen. And it's been years later, and I'm just like, oh man, like I wish you could have gotten help earlier or sooner or known, don't do X, Y, Z, or maybe don't jump back into the gym without strengthening some little things first. And I think seeing that, training women really kind of helped me to realize like how I'm not saying like women should baby themselves as far as like, back in the old days, they said not to
do anything.
Do anything, but there are some parts of yourself that you should take extra caution with.
Have some grace and be patient. Yeah.
And it's just as simple as, rolling to your side and helping yourself get up and not letting that like coning happen more than it needs to.
Yeah. The log roll technique, managing those pressures. And even knowing that if you do have diastasis, it's not the end of the world.
Right.
And that working with like a pelvic floor therapist or a good coach or trainer, you can find ways to have more of a functional diastasis where we're looking at more of that tension generation, which is better for your core stability, core strength versus more of that depth. So when we're assessing things, if I'm noticing my fingers are going pretty deep, then that's telling me like, okay, there's that tissue integrity is not as functional as it could be. What can we do to generate better tension? It's coming down to breathing and doing some more of those deeper core exercises, but coordinating them appropriately and all of that stuff too. And I think just letting people know that like there's so many things that you can do and not that like, oh, that window has, like that door has shut, that window's closed, like you can't do anything. But to actually like know that there's options.
Yeah, there's a lot of options.
And strategies.
And I think I would caution women from like maybe they're go-getters like we are, but caution them from like hitting the gym without doing either an assessment with a PT or you can do self-assessments at home to see like where you're at, and not just to let it slide because we're moms and we're busy and it's like, oh, I'll take care of it eventually. Like, no, you deserve to take care of this. Like,
absolutely. Yeah.
This is going to help you in a lot of ways.
Absolutely. And I think so many mothers now are active. They were active before pregnancy. They're active during their pregnancy. So they obviously, most women, if not all that I've been working with, because we kind of specialize more in the active adults, is looking to get back to another certain level of fitness. It doesn't have to be a competitive, but it's active. It's being able to play with your kids. It's being able to, go surfing, participate in certain activities without having the concern of is my body going to hold up? You know, and that's something
that's a scary thought.
Yeah.
And that went through my head a million times when I found out I was pregnant. I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. I did it this time, No, talk yourself down. It's okay.
That's so true. Yeah. And just having that, knowing that there's a network of people and to reach out to those people, because there's a reason why people go into the profession that they do. And absolutely. Especially I think with a lot of health, wellness, fitness, healthcare, all of that stuff is to help people in some regard. Mm-hmm. And so it's our job to do that. And that's why I like educating about these things and letting people know that there are things that you can do, and it's not like a death sentence, or it's not like this is my new normal or anything like that. It's something that can be worked on. It might not come easy. There's no quick fixes. And I think with anything. And I think that whole process of the health journey and nutrition and everything like that, and the postpartum time is so important about the little things. Mm-hmm. The little things over time are going to add up and make a difference.
I agree 100%.
Absolutely. So we kind of already touched on, but I would love if you had anything else specifically on, I wish I would have known sooner. So basically a lot of women, working with women, what's something that you've been working with them and that topic comes up if they say like, oh, I wish I would have known sooner. What would that topic be? And let them know.
One of the big ones that I didn't really touch on yet, and I'm really excited to experience myself, is postpartum. I wish I would have known sooner that you don't have to be up and about and running errands and going like your normal life. It doesn't make you a super mom. Maybe that's what some people expect of you, but it's not what they should expect of you. I wish I would have understood what the healing should look like in postpartum. Mm-hmm. And I'm really excited to experience it myself. I see it all the time. Like, as moms, after you have a baby, your hormones are just demolished.
Right? They've been through a handful of things. Yeah.
Your body's been put through the ringer. So emotionally and physically, like, you need as much care or more as your newborn. And we don't get that in America, especially. Mm-hmm. And I'm seeing the tides change with, the first 40 days came out, and the fourth trimester. Book. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I love that book. I bought that like a year before I was pregnant, just to help clients and friends that were having babies. And it was so eye-opening, because I can look back postpartum and say, oh my gosh, I can't believe, so I moved from Texas to Oregon when the twins were 2 weeks old. I got on an airplane when they were 2 weeks old. Coincidentally, I got mastitis at 3 weeks postpartum. The same with my other boys. Like, I was up and doing too much. I got mastitis at 3 weeks postpartum with each one of them. I was talking to my midwife about it recently, and she's like, that is like a infection telling you you've done too much. Like, that is all it is. Like, even my OB at the time was like, get in bed with your babies, and do nothing. Yeah. Like, that is your body saying enough is enough.
Recover.
Yeah. And, I think people are starting to realize the importance of postpartum, but I'm still seeing like, man, because Instagram, we see a lot, right? We see everyone's life. Yeah. Oh, I'm going to be up and working out at 2 to 3 weeks postpartum. And I'm like, no.
It's such a unique time. I think
it's the only time in your life where you really shouldn't be doing anything. Like, how often do we get that? So while I know it's going to be hard to just be, it's also like, hey, when else can I do this?
Exactly. Yeah. You're like, I'm going to take advantage of this opportunity.
Yeah. To actually be. How women recover and treat themselves postpartum reflects what their health will be like later in life. And that to me, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, so we're essentially aging ourselves by not taking care of ourselves during this very sacred time. Yeah. I'm very passionate about that.
I know. Yeah. And it's so interesting. And I'm looking forward to seeing you go through this experience and in a different light.
We could do another podcast.
After baby with Natalie, we would definitely can
talk about hormones. Cause I struggled. I remember, you know, everyone goes through, not everyone, but a lot of them go through like the weepy stuff and crying and hormonal changes. And I just remember it being emotionally so hard and feeling so unsupported. And so a lot of what I'm doing right now is preparing for postpartum, you know, developing my support system and a plan, because we plan for our birth. We have our birth plan, but then we don't have a postpartum plan. And that's where the wheels fall off.
Yeah. And I think that's a great thing to bring into the conversation and continue that conversation, ladies, because I think we do focus so much on the arrival of baby, as special and important and incredible as the arrival of a new baby into the world is. But then for the mother, that postpartum thing. And I'm also very passionate about those postpartum mothers. So being able to find your people, you know, your network or whatever that looks like, whether that's family, friends, other like medical, healthcare, wellness, any of those things, and building that, creating that before baby comes, or knowing who you can reach out to.
Yeah. Like having a plan in place. There's a lot of options. Like if you don't have people, well, there's people you can hire. If you can't afford that, there's a lot you can do prior to delivery as far as your meal prep and everything that goes into postpartum preparation. There's a lot you can do beforehand. Yeah. And
it's a whole,
there's help.
Yeah. There's so
needed.
much.
I don't think women realize how much help is needed postpartum is the other piece, especially if it's your first time. You're like, oh, you know, whatever it's going to be.
Yeah. You don't have anything to compare it to.
Yeah.
Yeah. And being able to know, I think to not feel like you have the pride to be all that maybe is seen on social media or in society, like, listen, like be yourself and do what your body needs to do. Natalie, you were talking about just listening to your body throughout this pregnancy. And then I think that postpartum piece, I think you're going to be very much in tune as well. And just being able to do what your body needs to do, whether that's movement, whether that's nutrition and nourishing it, whether that's just resting and sleeping or finding what those things are. But building that network, I think, is so important.
Yeah.
So,
village.
Yes.
Villages again.
Always. We need those villages. Perfect. So we're going to transition into the last question. But before we do that, Natalie, where can people find you if they want to reach out and connect with you, learn a little bit more about your nutrition work or your fitness work and anything like that, or just kind of your pregnancy journey as well?
Instagram is where I'm at right now. Gosh, I haven't been posting a ton. I should probably post more. Natalie Parlett is my handle on Instagram. I'm currently a practitioner at the Root Cause Clinic, which I have info about in my profile there. And I work with clients, nutrition through there, but personal training, if anyone's local and they need personal training, I'm also always open to do that.
Perfect. I'll be sure to put that in the show notes so you guys can reach out to Natalie, or if any other way, reach out to me first and I can reach out to her if you can't find her.
I get lots of lovely DMs from people just with questions, looking for help or wanting to work with me through the clinic. And I love working with women. I will work with men too, of course. I have 4 sons.
Yeah, you're used to the boys.
I'm used to men and boys. I just have I have a passion for women because I see what's lacking in support there.
That's awesome. Very good. So final question. So you are in line at a coffee shop. I'm trying to think, is it Nectarine Grove or is it Coffee or where are you?
Let's say Nectarine.
All right.
Because I have other options there.
Yeah, Nectarine. Oh yeah. So no coffee, but they have some really good drinks.
They do.
Yeah. So you're at Nectarine Grove. You're waiting in line. You're going to order maybe one of their donuts. We had gotten those before. So you're waiting in line and there's a mom that comes up to you and she's holding her baby and she's like, you know what? I recognize you and I have a question for you. I'm really struggling with my health and fitness routine and getting back to kind of what I was doing before baby and like, what does that look like? What advice would you give to her if you had about a minute to share?
Gosh, first and foremost is grace. Give yourself grace. It Rome wasn't built in a day, right? Mm-hmm. And postpartum, it's kind of like, my husband likes to say, it's going to be the new normal. You're not going back to what you were, you're building something new. Mm-hmm. So give yourself grace as far as your energy and your time, because that's changed quite a bit after having a baby. And just know that it's a little bit day by day. It's consistency. So maybe today it's just a 10-minute walk, and then tomorrow it's a 20-minute walk. Or maybe it's reaching out to someone like Lindsay online and being like, hey, do you have any resources for me? Can I come see you or me? And I can point you in that direction. It's just taking that first step and doing a little bit day by day and getting in the routine to where you crave that time to bring your fitness back or your health back. And knowing that if you fall off the wagon one day, that doesn't mean you fall off the wagon the rest of the week. You just get back on the next day.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But there's help. Like we've been saying this whole podcast, there's options and there's help, and a lot of people that would love to help you.
Mm-hmm. That's perfect. Perfect answer. Great advice. Oh, Natalie, I thank you so much for being on the show today. It was such a good conversation, and I'm looking forward to the next one after baby comes into this world. Yeah.
It rocks my world.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be so fun to hear your insight from then and on.
And what I'm having. I can't wait.
I know. Yeah. She doesn't know the gender yet. So it's going to be fun surprise for all of us. But I thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Postpartum Performance Podcast. I appreciate you taking the time to listen, learn, and grow. If this is your first time tuning in, thank you so much for being here. The aim of this podcast is to provide oodles of the best possible content to help empower women, eliminate the phrase, I wish I would have known sooner around pelvic health, and to encourage personal growth through the postpartum journey to becoming the best version of yourself. If you enjoyed the show and found the content helpful, please remember to subscribe to the podcast and leave a 5-star review. These subscriptions and reviews help other mothers discover the podcast. If you're a regular listener, thank you. I encourage you to tell a friend about us or post on social media sharing your favorite part for today's show. If you're looking for more content like this, please follow me on Instagram at Postpartum Performance. Remember, mothers, if you're seeking to live life strong, I'm here with you in your corner. Continue to be brave, stay strong, and live confidently.